I found the card on a Wednesday morning. It had fallen behind the dresser, caught in the narrow space between dust and forgotten receipts. A red envelope, half torn, the corner smeared with something waxy. I only noticed it because the Roomba jammed itself trying to clean the space. Inside was a printed voucher, glossy, folded once. 2 names typed in the appointment for line: Melanie R. Caldwell and Marcus T. Ray. The spa's logo was embossed gold at the top. Beneath it, in neat sans serif, 1-hour couples aromatherapy massage, Serenity Wellness Spa, March 3rd at 6 p.m. Melanie had told me she needed space. That was her exact word, space. She'd said it 2 weeks ago, after a quiet dinner where she barely touched her risotto and kept checking her phone screen when she thought I wasn't looking. She said she wanted time to think, to breathe. Said she was feeling overwhelmed. "It's not about you," she had added. That night, she packed a small bag and moved into her sister's condo across town. Said she'd be back in a week or 2. Said she loved me. Said all the right things in all the wrong tones. And here was the real reason: a $300 massage with Marcus. Her ex. The one she hadn't spoken to in years. The irony wasn't even sharp. It was dull and gray and tired. I didn't react, not out loud. I turned the card over in my hand, feeling the thick paper stock, the way the corner curled just slightly where it had been pressed against the wall. I placed it on the kitchen table. No message. No rage. Just placed it there under the soft light of the window, and made coffee. She wasn't home, but her scent was still in the sheets. That vanilla sandalwood blend she thought was subtle but clung to everything. I opened a drawer. Her nightshirt was still there. I folded it carefully, placed it back, and closed the drawer again. Marcus Ray. I remembered him vaguely from old stories. A college boyfriend with tattoos and debt. She once said he was reckless but good at heart. When we met, she described him as her "what if." Said he taught her what not to want in a man. And yet, here we were. I called in sick to work that day. My voice was calm, too calm maybe. I told the practice manager I had a stomach bug. Technically not a lie. I didn't stalk her Instagram. Didn't text her. Didn't drive by her sister's place. I didn't need to. The voucher was real. Typed names, scheduled time, paid deposit. That was more than enough. Melanie had always been precise. If she booked something, she showed up. She made lists, laminated them, color-coded her planner. If she had marked 6 p.m. on March 3rd, she would be there, early even. I walked to the window and watched a crow land on the fence. It pecked at something unseen in the snow, then flew off, leaving nothing behind. She told me she needed space. But she booked a massage that only made sense if 2 bodies touched on purpose. I took out a fresh notepad and began to write. Not what I'd say to her. What I'd do instead. 3 days before the massage, I noticed one of her sandals missing. Not both. Just the left. It was the kind with a braided leather strap and a silver ring where the toes slipped through. She'd worn them on our honeymoon in Costa Rica. They were scuffed now, worn thin at the sole, but she still kept them on the shoe rack like they meant something. Only the right one remained. Sitting angled toward the wall like it had been abandoned mid-step. That's the kind of detail you overlook when you're trying to move on. But I wasn't moving on yet. I was standing still. Watching. I opened her closet. A space built for 2, now holding the breath of someone who hadn't truly lived here in weeks. Her side was still full. Dresses, blouses, the beige peacoat she wore when she wanted to seem put together but not trying too hard. But there were small shifts. Gaps between hangers. A missing scarf. An empty velvet tray where her watch used to rest. Melanie had taken pieces of herself without making a sound. She hadn't logged out of her laptop. That was her mistake. Or maybe she thought I wouldn't check. I hadn't touched it in years, not really. Her MacBook was sacred space. Scented candles, curated playlists, work documents, Pinterest boards of nursery designs we never actually discussed. The password hadn't changed. She didn't hide the browser history. March 3rd, 6 p.m. Serenity Wellness Spa. Booked 2 weeks ago. 4 days before she asked for space. The timestamp on the booking was 2:46 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was in the middle of a conference call about malpractice insurance caps. She had texted me right after. Hope your day's not too crazy. Don't forget to breathe. I remembered replying with a thumbs up emoji. She was scheduling a massage with her ex while sending me wellness affirmations. There were other tabs open too. A shared doc titled Goals 2025. Her budgeting app, a map with traffic estimates from our apartment to a new yoga studio she'd never mentioned. In her email, confirmation receipts, Spotify family plan changes, a subscription for something called Hello Heart. She was building a solo life by subtraction. I clicked into her saved locations on maps. Recent searches. Marcus Ray Office, Serenity Wellness, cheap movers near me. I didn't rage. I annotated. Screenshot save. Screenshot save. I made a spreadsheet. Not for evidence. For sequence. I needed a timeline, not a diary. At 3:10 p.m., she'd emailed Marcus. The subject line was blank. The body said booked it. See you there. Let's not overthink this. Attached was the voucher. I stared at that line, let's not overthink this, and wondered if that was how she saw us. Me. Our life. A thing she'd overthought until she'd decided against it. I closed the laptop. That night, I returned the sandal to the shoe rack. Placed it beside the other. Aligned them perfectly, toe to wall. I didn't call her. Didn't bring it up. The silence was more useful. The next morning, I set an alarm for 4:45 a.m. Got dressed, left the house, and drove 3 blocks past her sister's building. Parked. Waited. At 6:12 a.m., Melanie walked out in a black parka and gym tights. She wasn't going to the gym. No duffel bag. No water bottle. No ponytail. Just her phone and keys in one hand, earbuds in the other. She got into a silver Audi parked around the corner. Marcus drove. I didn't follow. I already knew where they were going. Saturday came like a dare. The kind of gray morning that presses against the windows and mutes everything outside. Rain streamed down the glass in threads. I sat in the kitchen watching it split and merge, tracing the same invisible routes over and over. I didn't need to go to the spa. I already knew she would be there. But I wanted to see them. Not to cause a scene. Just to confirm the weight of it. In medicine, you don't treat a guess. You need visible confirmation. Scan, test, expose. So I went. Serenity Wellness was in a converted Victorian house off Garden Street. White columns. Brick steps. Wind chimes even though the air was still. A sign out front promised tranquility in 3 typefaces. I parked across the street, angled just enough to watch the door. No tinted windows, no disguise. I didn't need to hide. Melanie didn't know I'd seen the voucher. She didn't know I'd checked her laptop, or watched her leave with him 2 mornings ago. She still thought I was back in my office at the law firm, buried under depositions. I arrived at 5:43 p.m. At 5:56, a silver Audi pulled up. Marcus got out first, tall, smug, hoodie under a blazer. He checked his phone, then walked around to open the door for her. Melanie stepped out wearing a cream sweater and those jeans with the stitched back pockets. She looked up at him and laughed at something. Touched his arm. She hadn't laughed like that in months. Not with me. They went in together. Not in a hurry. Not hiding. I stayed in the car, hands flat on the steering wheel, knuckles cold. I didn't feel rage. Just a slow, hard settling. Like a stone lowering itself into place. At 6:04, the front desk lights dimmed. Spa mode. I waited. 58 minutes later they came out. His hand rested on her lower back like he'd earned it. She was smiling, face slightly flushed. Her hair pulled back in a way she didn't do for me anymore. A small, rolled towel in her hand, parting gift from the spa. They crossed the steps. The rain had picked up. She slipped slightly. He steadied her. She laughed again. He touched her chin. They kissed. Soft. Familiar. She didn't pull away. They drove off. I sat there 10 more minutes, the engine off, listening to the rain hit the windshield. No music. No thoughts. Just the rain glass and the slow click of the cooling engine. That night I didn't sleep. I rearranged the office. Not out of anger, strategy. Her files. Her drawer. Her folders labeled taxes, insurance, Melt Plus down vacation IDs. I boxed them neatly. Wrote Melanie Caldwell on the outside. No initials. No affection. I stacked the box in the guest room. Opened the safe. Inside was the fireproof folder with our marriage license, wills, and joint property agreements. I removed mine. Left hers untouched. I changed my emergency contact at the firm from Melanie to my sister. Updated next of kin. Changed my voicemail passed. Cancelled the Spotify family account. She'd know eventually. But I wanted her to feel the shift slowly, like a house tilting one floorboard at a time. She texted me at 11:02 p.m. Hey. Can we talk tomorrow? I've been thinking about us. I think some clarity is setting in. Clarity. I didn't respond. I stared at the screen for a long time, then turned it off and placed it face down on the desk. She needed space. Let her feel how wide that space could get. She came back Sunday afternoon with a brown paper bag and a quiet smile. Like she'd been gone for hours, not weeks. Like the last message she'd sent hadn't reeked of staged emotion. She didn't knock. Still had her key. I let her use it. Melanie walked in with the bag and placed it gently on the counter. Almond milk. Avocados. A lemon. One of those vanilla soy yogurts I don't eat. I figured we could talk over dinner, she said, like she was choosing a movie. I nodded once. Didn't move from the hallway. She glanced at me, eyes searching, reading my stillness like it was a foreign language. I got the stuff for your pasta, she added. The one with mushrooms and sage? I didn't correct her. I hate sage. She leaned against the counter, arms folded. You've been quiet. I didn't answer. She let the silence sit, then reached for the cabinet. I thought about what I said. About space. And you were right, I was using that word to avoid saying the harder thing. I watched her unpack groceries she hadn't bought for us. I knew that by now. You said nothing when I left, she continued. That hurt more than I expected. There it was. The attempt to loop the blame. Tie silence to cruelty. Shift weight back to me. I needed time, she said softer now. But not for him. It was about me. I didn't ask who him was. She opened the fridge. Paused. You threw out the cheese? It expired. She nodded too fast. That night, she made the pasta anyway. Oversalted it. Didn't touch her own plate. She kept glancing at me during dinner like I might offer a cue she could follow. I didn't. Afterward, she sat on the couch scrolling her phone while I washed dishes. She used to hum when she scrolled. Not anymore. Now her silence was calculated. At 9:47 p.m., her phone buzzed. I heard it before she did. One buzz. Then another. Then silence. She flipped it over, screen down. Not off. Just face down. That's when I knew she thought she still had control. Later, I watched her brush her teeth. She left the door cracked. Like before. Like we were normal. She used my toothbrush by mistake. Or maybe not by mistake. Hard to tell with Melanie. We got into bed. She reached for my arm under the covers. I didn't move. She withdrew her hand after a minute. Said nothing. The next morning, she made coffee at 6:20. I was already dressed, tie half knotted. She placed my mug exactly where she used to, right corner of the table, handle turned slightly right. Morning, she said. I looked at the cup. Steam curling. Morning. She smiled. Small. Hopeful. Like a woman returning to a house after a long evacuation, wondering what survived. But the thing about fires is they leave outlines. Ghost shapes on the walls where paintings used to hang. You can't just move back in and expect the heat to be gone. I drove to work early. Parked 2 blocks away. Walked. Needed the time. At lunch, I called Serenity Wellness Spa. Asked if any couple named Caldwell and Ray had used a massage voucher that weekend. The receptionist said she couldn't confirm names. I left my number. Said I was writing a review article on customer experience. Said I'd appreciate a callback. She never called back. That night, Melanie cooked again. Stir fry. Too much garlic. She asked about my day. I gave short answers. She talked about a client who cried during a loan consultation. She didn't mention Marcus. I didn't ask. After dinner, she reached into her bag for a grocery list. I thought we could stock up tomorrow, she said. Start fresh. She held up the paper, but her hand trembled just slightly. I looked at the list. Her handwriting was off. Rounder. Like someone else had written it, and she traced over it. The second ring was what gave it away. She kept her phone on silent now, like that would fix anything. But even on silent, there are patterns. A call lights up once. If it rings again within 10 seconds, it's someone who expects to be answered. It happened Wednesday night. We were sitting on the couch. She had her feet tucked under her, a throw blanket pulled to her waist like she was cold. We weren't talking. A cooking show played on mute, while a storm rolled in outside. Then her phone buzzed. Once. Then again. 2 rings, 5 seconds apart. She glanced at it. Face unreadable. Then flipped its screen down. You're not going to check that? I asked. She smiled too quickly. Probably spam. They've been relentless. The way her thumb hovered near the edge, like she wanted to touch it but couldn't decide if it was worth the risk, that told me more than a lie. Later that night, while she was in the shower, I checked her phone. She'd changed her passcode. That was new. Before, it was our anniversary. 0915. Now it was something else. I didn't try to guess. Didn't need to. I went to my office, pulled open the drawer where I kept old USB drives, and found the one I hadn't used in years. Loaded with utilities. Things I never planned to use. I plugged it into my laptop and got to work. By morning I had cloned her backup from our shared iCloud. Not the full contents, just enough. Call logs. Calendar syncs. Recent passwords. The new code? 1022. Marcus's birthday. She once mentioned it offhand in a story about a ruined surprise party. She used his birthday as her lock screen. Subtle violence. The next evening, I didn't say a word. Just watched. Her movements were tighter now, smaller. She cooked slower. Used fewer spices. Her makeup was heavier in the mornings, lighter at night. She was trying to recalibrate herself around my silence. That's how you know someone's guilty, not when they confess, but when they start shaping themselves to the absence of confrontation. Thursday, she offered to pick up takeout. Said I looked tired. That we shouldn't cook tonight. You've been working hard, she said, touching my shoulder. I nodded. Get whatever you want. She left at 6:13 p.m. At 6:17, Marcus called her. At 6:18, she called him back. At 6:19, they spoke for 7 minutes and 36 seconds. She returned at 6:39 with Thai food and an excuse about a long pickup line. Everyone wanted pad Thai tonight, she joked. I watched her open the bag. Watched her pull out spring rolls I didn't like, peanut sauce she forgot I was allergic to, and jasmine rice she hadn't ordered in years. It was a meal for 2, but not for us. At 7:02 p.m., I asked where she picked it up. She blinked. Lemongrass. That's on 9th, right? Yeah. I waited. You sure? Their website says they're closed on Thursdays. A pause. No, I meant Thai Orchid. They're closed too. Renovating after that fire last week. Her jaw tightened. Maybe it was the new one on Grove, Marcus mentioned. She stopped. Too late. The name slipped like sweat. We didn't speak the rest of the night. She went to bed early, claimed a headache. I stayed in the living room and made notes. I was mapping the fractures. Not because I needed proof, I had that. But because I wanted sequence. Pattern. Pressure points. Melanie was unraveling in microtells. Tighter speech. Pauses before lies. A hand that hovered over a phone like it owed her honesty. I let the silence stretch. Not to punish. To study. She was still in the house. But the cracks were getting louder. She wore the green dress again. I hadn't seen it in a year, maybe longer. It was the one she used to call her reset dress, fitted but not loud, with a high neckline and a subtle slit at the side. She wore it the night I proposed. Wore it again the night she got promoted. And now, suddenly, it was back in rotation. Friday evening, 5:30 p.m. She walked out of the bedroom, hair pinned, makeup deliberate. The green dress hugged her frame like it knew its purpose. Going somewhere? I asked, eyes on the collar. She smiled, faint. Drinks with Lila. She's been nagging me. She turned to grab her bag. The slit flashed across her thigh. Where? Bordeaux. Downtown. Bordeaux was loud. Packed. Not where Lila usually went. I nodded. Tell her I said hi. She lingered. You okay with this? You said you needed space. The words landed. Her shoulders shifted. That was before. Before what, she didn't say. She left at 5:42 p.m. I waited exactly 7 minutes before getting in the car. She hadn't gone to Bordeaux. At 6:05 p.m., she parked outside a bistro called Halcyon. Quiet. Tucked behind a florist. Soft lighting, not the kind for girls' night out. The kind for low voices and shared desserts. She didn't go in alone. Marcus was already inside. Window seat. He stood as she approached, leaned in, not a hug, not quite. The kind of touch that had history. She sat. They talked. I didn't move from the car. Didn't need to. At 6:41 p.m., the waiter brought out a bottle. She laughed. Touched the rim of her glass before sipping. Her lipstick left no trace on the glass. She always reapplied after the first sip. I taught her that once. A trick from a client dinner years ago. She'd remembered. At 7:23 p.m., Marcus reached across the table. Held her hand. She didn't pull away. I waited until 7:40. Then drove home. When she returned at 9:11 p.m., she was quiet. The kind of quiet that wants to be asked. Fun with Lila? I asked from the couch. She paused by the door, shoes in hand. Yeah. She's stressed. Work stuff. She set her bag down. What did you drink? She blinked. Just a spritzer. I turned off the TV. You smell like red wine. A beet. Lila ordered one. I might have had a sip. She was bad at lying now. Fatigue does that. She walked into the bathroom and closed the door. 5 minutes later, I heard the faucet run longer than necessary. I didn't move. The next day, I opened her closet while she was at yoga. The green dress was draped over the hamper. I lifted it, careful not to wrinkle it more than it already was. Inside the lining, barely visible, a faint, pinhead-sized stain. Red. Could have been wine. Could have been lipstick. Could have been blood. I photographed it. Hung the dress back up. That night, she suggested we host dinner for my sister next week. Said we could show how good things are. The phrasing was important. Not that things were good, but that they could look that way. We haven't had anyone over in forever, she added. It might be nice. I looked at her face. She wasn't trying to rebuild. She was trying to stage a scene. Let's think about it, I said. She smiled like I'd said yes. Later, I watched her sleep. Her breathing shallow. eyes twitching behind lids. Even in sleep, she was bracing. That was the difference now. I wasn't. The double lie happened on a Tuesday. She said she was going to her therapist. I said I had a late meeting. Either of us told the truth. She left at 4:58 p.m., keys in one hand, phone in the other. A plain white hoodie, no makeup, hair tucked under a ball cap. The disguise was thin, but deliberate. The kind of outfit you wear when you want to be noticed less, not at all. I waited 5 minutes. Then followed. She didn't go to Dr. Holbrook's office. She drove 20 minutes west, past the interstate, to a neighborhood of newer condos with slate roofs and identical mailboxes. Pulled into a space, walked up a short path, and knocked on a red door. Marcus opened it. No hesitation. No scan of the street. Just opened the door and let her in. I didn't get out of the car. Didn't need to. I already had the camera mounted on the dash. Wide lens. High res. Silent shutter. Time-stamped. She stayed for 53 minutes. When she left, her hoodie was unzipped, and she was holding her shoes. Barefoot on the concrete. She didn't look around once. That night I got home before her. Changed shirts. Made it look like I'd just finished working. When she walked in, I was at the kitchen table, scrolling through spreadsheets. She placed the brown paper bag down, Thai food again. Therapy went long, she said. So I picked up dinner. I didn't answer. She walked to the sink, filled a glass, sipped. Are you okay? She asked. I looked up. You said that yesterday. She frowned. What? Same question. Same tone. Same time. She hesitated. I'm trying. To do what? She didn't answer. The silence held for a moment too long. Then she smiled, brittle. You said you had a meeting? I nodded. Client consult. Ran late. That too was a lie. I had driven to Marcus's office. Not to confront him, to study. He owned a small design firm. Nothing flashy. Custom cabinetry, mid-tier remodels, a few local awards. Clean image. His receptionist had smiled politely when I asked for a brochure. I told her I was remodeling a guest room. She handed me a glossy folder with his face on the back page. The smile was curated. Friendly. Forgettable. I kept it. Now we sat at dinner. The food was lukewarm. The lies between us warmer. She told me a story about her therapist suggesting she recenter her emotional locus. Said she'd been journaling. Showed me a moleskine notebook with the first 3 pages filled in. I didn't ask when she started. I knew the handwriting didn't match. I let her talk. Nodded. Sipped water. Every lie she told was small. Clean. Polished. Each one stacked neatly atop the other, like bricks in a quiet wall. That night, she reached for me in bed. Not aggressively. Not seductively. Just fingers brushing my back like a woman trying to remember if her husband still had warmth. I didn't move. She didn't try again. In the dark, I stared at the ceiling and listed her lies in my head like scripture. Therapist. Dinner. The name of the restaurant. The hoodie she never wears twice. The way she said home, but didn't mean here. I wasn't angry. I was sharpening. I played the footage 10 times. Not because I doubted what I saw. I needed to know how it felt. Every tick, every glance, every absence of hesitation. I watched her walk into Marcus's condo, heard the slight click as she shut the door behind her, saw the curtains shift 30 minutes later when they moved in front of the window. No intimacy shown. Just silhouettes. Enough. I synced the timestamp with the call log she'd deleted. 5:12 p.m., an outgoing call to M that lasted 11 seconds. Likely a door code. A heads up. She erased it from her phone. But iCloud doesn't forget when you know where to look. That night, she brought home wine. Unprompted. Thought it might be nice, she said, placing the bottle on the table. It was the Pinot I'd brought to her parents' house the first time I met them. She hadn't mentioned that. We sat across from each other, candles lit like she was staging a peace treaty. I want us to talk, she said. I took a sip. I know things have been off. And I've been distant. I own that. She waited for me to interrupt. I didn't. Her eyes searched mine. But I want to come back from this. I do. Come back from what? She didn't say. I've been thinking a lot about honesty, she added. The word fractured in the air. She kept going, soft and practiced. I wasn't okay for a while. I kept things from you. Things that weren't serious, but still mattered. I nodded. Like Marcus? Her mouth stayed open just long enough. Excuse me? You said things weren't serious. He's one of them, right? She froze. I let the silence widen. Then she smiled. Small. Controlled. Marcus and I are friends. We bumped into each other. It made me reflect. Friends. Yes. You go to your friends' condos barefoot? The mask cracked. A flicker of anger or panic. Hard to tell. She didn't speak. I placed my phone on the table. Press play. There was no sound. Just video. Her car pulling into Marcus's lot. Her walking up the path. The door opening. Her slipping inside. Her face strained slowly, like warmth bleeding from the skin. I didn't. She started. You did. She blinked. You followed me? I confirmed. You were spying. I was recording. There's a difference. The weight of that landed. She looked away. Inhaled. Look, she said, tone shifting. Softer. Measured. Yes, I went to see him. But it wasn't. Don't define it. I have to. Because it's not what you think. I think you cheated. She flinched. I pushed the phone closer. Tell me that isn't you. She didn't look. She didn't have to. I messed up, she said. I know that. You're still doing it. She shook her head, almost laughing. You don't understand what I've been going through. There it was. The pivot. I needed to feel seen. You haven't been present for months. I didn't respond. This wasn't about him. It was about me. About what I wasn't getting. She was building a case. Positioning herself as the hurt party. Standard. I stood. Collected the plates. Carried them to the sink. Behind me, silence, then a soft voice. Don, please. The first time she used my name in weeks. I turned the faucet on. Let the water run over the wine glasses. You don't have to do this, she said behind me. We can work through it. I let her believe that. For now. She forgot to unsync her tablet. That was her real mistake. It had been sitting in the kitchen drawer for weeks, and used. One of those birthday gifts she praised publicly, then quietly retired. She never bothered logging it out of her accounts. Thought it didn't matter. It mattered. Tuesday morning, she left early. Claimed a training seminar. Took extra time curling her hair. Left wearing the navy blazer that made her look authoritative. As if a costume could absolve anything. At 9:17 a.m., her tablet pinged. A forwarded email. Subject, I'm still thinking about you. The sender was Marcus. The thread stretched back days. Weeks. His tone was confident. Casual, but not flippant. Familiar. I hate how you leave. He'd written. Even when I know you're coming back. Beneath that, her reply. You make it hard to stay away. I'm trying. Then, don't try so hard. You know where this ends. Her response was time-stamped Saturday morning, the day after our dinner. While I washed the dishes, she was writing I'm trying to another man. The final message, that morning, included a photo. Not explicit. But close. Her legs curled under a blanket. A mug in hand. His name written in foam. A heart drawn into the top. She signed off, tonight? If the seminar ends early. I didn't forward it. Didn't print it. Just read it 3 times. Memorized the phrasing. The absence of guilt in her tone. The warmth she no longer used with me. At noon I called our attorney. Not for divorce. For asset review. I asked about timelines. Quiet separation versus contested. Real estate implications. Spousal rights in the event of infidelity. The language was clinical. So was my tone. I requested draft documents. Said I was exploring hypotheticals. He didn't ask questions. Just said he'd email a packet. That night Melanie returned at 6:47 p.m. No seminar notes. No branded folder. Just her blazer folded over her arm and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "How was it?" I asked, washing a pan. She dropped her bag. "Long dry." The speaker kept circling the same point. "Learn anything useful?" She paused. "Maybe. It's hard to say." "Did it end early?" "Nope. Ran over, actually." I nodded. She opened the fridge. "I could make pasta again." "You already did that twice." "We have leftover mushrooms." "You hate mushrooms." Another pause. She turned. "Are we okay?" I looked at her for a long time. Measured her stance, her grip on the fridge handle. The soft crease at the base of her throat. "You tell me." She smiled. "Tired." "I think we're getting there." I dried the pan. Hung it on the hook above the stove. Later, I opened her drawer in the bathroom. Rearranged the contents. Subtle. Moved the backup toothbrush. Shifted the floss left of the toner. Removed the travel-size dry shampoo. She'd notice eventually. It would feel like forgetting something small, then realizing it was missing on purpose. That's how I wanted her to feel. Not broken. Uncertain. The next morning, I texted her at 10:14 a.m., "Let's do dinner Friday." Just us. No phones. She replied instantly, "Really? That sounds amazing." I booked the reservation. Not for romance. For leverage. Thursday night, she fell asleep on the couch. Not dramatically. Just slow, the kind of sleep that comes when guilt has been performing too long. Her head leaned against the throw pillow, legs curled, phone slipping from her hand like it was done pretending. I picked it up gently. She'd forgotten to close her email. Not the inbox, the drafts. She'd been writing something. Multiple somethings. The first one was titled, "If You Knew." It wasn't addressed. No recipient. Just lines written, rewritten, deleted, begun again. "If you knew how much I miss him, would it hurt less? If you knew I only went to him when I felt like I didn't matter here, would you hate me more or pity me?" I didn't plan for it to go this far. She'd stopped there. Didn't erase it. Just abandoned the sentence mid-scroll. The next draft was worse. It had a name at the top. Marcus. "I can't keep coming to you and lying to him. He's watching me again. I can feel it. He's quiet in a way that means danger. I think he knows. Or he's close. We need space. Just a little more time and I'll figure it out." It was time-stamped 24 hours earlier. I read it twice. Then deleted both drafts. Not to protect her. To tighten the noose. If she needed time, I'd give it to her, but every second would be one I owned. I opened our joint savings app. She hadn't touched it. Still linked to her main account. Still trusting me not to shift anything. I transferred $10,000 into a personal legal escrow I'd set up the day before. Not much. Just enough to cover filings and immediate counsel. Small enough she wouldn't notice. Big enough to mark a line. The next morning, I printed the email drafts from her tablet. Stored them in a locked drawer in my office. Then I picked up her favorite flowers, not out of nostalgia. Symbolism. She arrived home to them on the counter. "Oh," she said. "You remembered." I nodded. "Dinner's at 7 tomorrow." She smiled like a woman handed an apology she didn't earn. "I'm looking forward to it," she said, touching my arm. That night, she changed her phone password again. This time I didn't need it. I had her backups. Her metadata. I knew where the cracks ran. Knew which parts of her day were real and which were rehearsed. I watched her sleep again. Same position. Same pillow. Phone under the couch now, maybe intentional, maybe not. I moved it back to the coffee table. Let her wonder why. In the morning, she kissed my cheek. No lipstick. She hadn't worn any in a week. A detail she used to obsess over, now abandoned. Because she was already kissing someone else with it. I found the second SIM card in her gym bag. It was tucked into the lining of a side pocket, wrapped in an old receipt from a smoothie bar we hadn't visited in 2 years. The fold was tight. Intentional. Something meant to be kept but forgotten. The card itself was prepaid. No label. Just blank plastic and a number etched into the back. I didn't confront her. I activated it. Inserted it into a burner I kept in my desk drawer for client emergencies. It chirped once. 3 unread messages. No contacts saved. The first one. You good? You seem tense. Timestamped the night she returned from Marcus's. The second. Friday still happening? Should I bring the bottle or just show up? The third was newer. You always vanish when you start feeling guilty. That's not fair. No name. But the tone was his. I screenshotted each one. Stored them on an encrypted drive. Evidence. Not for a court, for me. The SIM stayed in the burner. I turned it off. Rewrapped it. Placed it back exactly where I found it. Let her believe her secret was still safe. That afternoon, I confirmed the dinner reservation. Corner table. Low lighting. Not too loud. Private but visible. I had a courier deliver a package to Marcus's design firm. No return address. Just a padded envelope with a flash drive and a folded printout, the silhouette footage, the call logs, and the text from the burner. Paper clipped. Clean. No commentary. The envelope would arrive by 11 a.m. Just enough time for him to cancel dinner, if he had a conscience. At 6:55 p.m., Melanie stepped out of the bedroom in a slate dress I hadn't seen in months. Her hair was up. Earrings small. She smiled like it still meant something. You look amazing, I said. Calm. Measured. So do you, she returned, reaching for her clutch. We didn't drive together. She said she had an errand after. I agreed. I watched her leave, then followed 3 minutes later. When I arrived at the restaurant, she was already seated. Alone. No wine. Checking her phone every 20 seconds. Marcus didn't show. I walked in slowly. Sat across from her. She looked up, startled. You didn't text me you were on the way. I wanted to see your face unprepared. She didn't respond. The waiter came. We ordered. She picked at her salad. Eyes darting toward the door. No words for the first 10 minutes. Then, something's wrong. I nodded. Agreed. He's not coming. You sure he was ever supposed to? She blinked. What are you saying? I leaned in soft. I sent him something. She froze. What? Enough. She stared. You're watching me. I'm documenting you. Her hand went to her lap. This is insane. Is it? She opened her mouth, closed it again. Her pulse ticked at the side of her neck. You set this up, she whispered. Yes. This dinner was for him, not you. The silence stretched. You're punishing me, she said. No, I said. I'm calibrating you. The waiter returned. She sent her plate away untouched. Asked for the check. I insisted on paying. As we stood, I leaned in again. I know about the burner. And the second number. She stopped breathing for a moment. Don't lose it, I added quietly. You'll want it later. We walked out together. But I walked behind her. 3 steps back. She never saw the email coming. Thursday morning, I drafted a message to her regional bank manager. Subject line, professional conduct and personal conflict of interest. It read like a client concern. Polite. Specific. No rage. I outlined how Melanie Caldwell, a loan officer under his supervision, had engaged in an ongoing affair with a local contractor who'd applied for multiple financing packages through her branch. No names needed. I attached the printouts. Screenshots of messages, dates, overlapping appointments. Then I blind copied 2 more addresses. One was the bank's internal ethics officer. The other was Marcus's wife. I scheduled it for 9:01 a.m. By 9:13, her phone was ringing. I watched from the kitchen while she paced the living room, cordless tight to her ear. She said almost nothing. Just yes, and I understand, and of course. Then silence. When she hung up, she didn't speak to me. Not even a glance. Instead, she walked to the sink, rinsed out her coffee cup, and set it in the rack with such precision it sounded like punctuation. At 10:04, Marcus texted her. I saw it light up on her lock screen. What did you do? At 10:05, she locked herself in the bedroom. She stayed there all morning. I left the house at noon. Went downtown. Grabbed lunch. Called my lawyer. Asked him to prepare the final documents. Gave him a date. He asked if I wanted to meet in person. No, I said. Mail is better. By the time I returned home, she was sitting on the floor in the hallway, back against the wall, knees pulled up. Her makeup had been wiped clean. Her phone was face down beside her, lifeless. She looked up but didn't speak. I didn't stop walking. In the kitchen, I poured a glass of water. Sat at the table. Waited. Eventually, she joined me. Stood by the counter, arms folded like she was bracing for an impact that had already passed. They know, she said softly. I didn't respond. Marcus is losing a contract over this. One of his biggest. Still I said nothing. She exhaled. You sent it to my boss? No, I said. I sent it to 3. She flinched. Why? Because I wanted the lies to matter. Her lip twitched. You could have just left. You said you needed space. She looked away. I gave you depth instead, I said. She shook her head slowly. This is cruel. I nodded. Yes. She looked back. You think this makes you better than me? No, I said. Just more patient. She sat across from me. What now? You wait. For what? The rest. At 2:46 p.m., a courier arrived. I handed her the envelope. It was already addressed. Inside, the separation papers, asset transfer proposal, and a note in my handwriting, no contest. Sign. Return. She didn't open it. She placed it on the counter. At 3:02 p.m., she began packing. No yelling. No slamming. Just the dull, private sound of drawers opening and closing, a life folding itself away with quiet urgency. She left by 4:19 p.m. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't ask for another chance. Didn't cry. Just carried 2 bags down the hall and disappeared through the front door like a woman who'd finally realized the game was over. Marcus's wife responded before Melanie did. It came in the form of a reply all. Thank you. I've suspected for months but couldn't prove it. This helps. You'll hear from my attorney soon. No emotion. Just clean acknowledgement. A precision strike. Melanie saw the message within the hour. I knew because she texted me 4 minutes later. You involved her? You had no right. I didn't respond. At 6:03 p.m. she called. It rang twice before I declined. A minute later. You've ruined 2 lives. Not 3. She still thought I was intact. I let her believe that. That night, I uploaded the footage, the hotel entrance, the spa walk-in, the condo visit, into a private Google Drive. Labeled it for records only. Shared the link with my lawyer. Added a note, in case she contests anything. Then I changed all my passwords. Bank, utilities, insurance. Updated account recovery to my sister's number. Removed Melanie as my emergency contact. At 8:14 p.m., I got a call from her sister. "Don," she said. "Can we talk?" "No," she sighed. She's spiraling. She should. "Is there anything I can do?" "You already did. You let her lie to you, too." "I didn't know." "You knew enough." "You said nothing." Silence. Then, "Okay." She hung up. At 9:40 p.m., Melanie emailed me. No subject line. "Please don't send anything else. You made your point. Let me rebuild what's left without more destruction. Please." I didn't reply. Friday morning, I returned the ring. The jeweler remembered me. Said I'd picked it with care. Asked if there was anything wrong with the band. "No," I said. "It just stopped meaning anything." He gave me a receipt. I folded it. Placed it in the box with the rest of our joint documents I'd prepared for her to pick up. Labeled it plainly, Melanie, remaining. That afternoon, Marcus showed up. Not at the door, across the street. Sat in his car for over 20 minutes. Just watched the house. Windows up, engine idling. At 3:32 p.m., I walked outside. He stepped out. Wore a face I'd seen in dozens of men, not angry, not ashamed. Just exposed. "You sent it all," he said. I nodded. "You humiliated me." "No," I said. "You did that part." He stepped forward, cautious. "You win. You broke it." I didn't break anything. I just held up the mirror. He looked away. "She's not okay. She will be. She blames you. She can." A pause. "She said you were cold?" "I am." Another pause. "You're not going to fight me?" "There's nothing left to fight for." He looked past me, toward the house. "She loved you, you know." "No," I said. "She loved being seen." He didn't argue. At 3:37 p.m. he left. At 3:38 I locked the front door and closed every curtain in the house. She came back on a Sunday. Not to apologize. Not to fix anything. Just to reclaim something. It was 8:14 a.m. I saw her through the peephole, hair in a loose bun, wearing the same coat she'd left in. No luggage. Just a purse and a manila folder. She knocked once. I didn't open the door. She knocked again. Harder this time. "Don, it's me." I said nothing. She waited. "I just need a few things. The rest of my files, my charger, my coat from the hall closet." Her voice was rehearsed. Controlled. I walked to the foyer, stood on the other side of the door, and spoke through it. "They're gone." A pause. "What do you mean?" "I boxed everything. It was delivered Friday. Check your mailroom." She stepped back from the door. I heard her shift. Probably checking if the neighbors were watching. "You're locking me out?" "I'm enforcing the boundary you asked for." That was different. "No," I said. It was just vague. She exhaled. "Don, please. You've said that before. I don't want this to get uglier than it already is." Then stopped scratching at the door. Silence. Then her tone sharpened. "You're doing this because you feel powerless. You think if you control the exit you'll win." "No," I said. "I already won. This is just cleanup." I heard her step away. Then back. "Can we talk? Face to face?" "No. You owe me that." "I owe you nothing." Another pause. Then, "You were never warm, you know that? That's why it happened." "I know," I said. "That's why it ends." At 8:22 a.m. she left. I watched from the upstairs window as she walked to her car. No tears. No calls. Just a quiet, wounded retreat. She sat in the driver's seat for a full minute before pulling away. At 8:27 a.m., I activated the final sequence. Bank access removed. Health insurance separated. Storage unit rekeyed. Streaming services reset. Email accounts purged. By noon, her name existed nowhere in my digital footprint. I deleted her contact from my phone. Not blocked. Erased. That afternoon, the attorney called. She hasn't signed yet, he said. She will. And if she contests? She won't. He hesitated. You've been surgical with this. I had to be. He didn't argue. I reviewed the document one last time. The final line on the final page. The undersigned agrees to relinquish all claims, emotional or material, upon signing. I had added that clause myself. She'd sign it. Because now, there was nothing left to leverage. No ground to beg from. She'd spent everything she had trying to manipulate absence into presence. I gave her absence instead. She signed. It came in a thin envelope. No return address. Just her name in neat block letters across the top corner. Inside, the separation agreement, fully executed. No edits. No comments. No note. She didn't even use her usual pen. The signature looked forced. The pressure uneven. I scanned it once. Filed it in the cabinet beneath my birth certificate. The divorce would finalize in 90 days. I wouldn't be here when it did. By then, I'd be 3 states west. New job. New apartment. A place with no ghosts pressed into the grout or perfume trailing from pillowcases. I took only what was mine. The desk. A leather-bound journal. One framed photo, not of us, just me and my dog, gone 5 years now. Everything else I left behind or donated. I didn't want to carry the weight of shared objects. She texted once after the envelope arrived. It's done. I hope that means something to you. I didn't reply. I didn't block her either. The silence between us had its own gravity now. Any word would have broken it too clumsily. Her name stopped showing up in my dreams after a week. In its place, I started remembering old things, how it felt to sleep through the night, how silence can be a kind of sanctuary, how coffee tastes when no one else is watching. I walked more. Talked less. I opened books I hadn't touched since college. The days folded into one another quietly. No panic. No ceremony. Just stillness. Sometimes I get emails from mutual friends. Casual check-ins, invitations to things. I never ask about her. I suspect they don't either. Everyone picked sides in silence. Marcus's business took a hit. His wife filed immediately. His name faded from the neighborhood newsletters. A quiet blacklisting. He's still around, I'm told. But less visible. Melanie moved in with her sister. Then out. I don't know where she is now. I never made a spectacle of what happened. No public confrontation, no social media reveal. Just precision. Measured exposure. Let the evidence speak in places my voice never needed to go. The house sold in under 3 weeks. I priced it just low enough to attract a clean buyer. Cash offer. No counter. On the day I locked the front door for the last time, I walked through each room. Not for nostalgia. For closure. The bedroom where I first noticed her distance. The kitchen where the lies tried to cook themselves into comfort. The hallway where she once asked if I still loved her and I said yes, even though I'd already begun to document her exit. I left the keys on the counter. Walked out. Didn't look back. The mailbox at the new place is small. No shared keys. No nameplate. Just a number and a lock. Sometimes I open it, and it's empty. And I'm okay with that. There's a kind of peace in the vacuum. In knowing that nothing expected can still feel like control. The last thing I did before writing this was delete her from my saved Wi-Fi networks. The name of the network used to be Caldwell Nest. Now it's just Guest. No password. No history. No trace. Only signal, moving quietly through the walls.